write about themselves. And that was the first initiative in India to have a tribal people's newspaper for their own. I don't like to call themselves as marginalized. They are the mainstreams, and their voice should be the mainstream voice. And because of the structural inequalities everywhere in the world, their voices are often called as marginalized, and they are projected as victims. I was a bit angry about that, because I grew up in a tribal area, and all my friends were tribals, and they were always feeling angry whenever they see any television image of themselves. And I felt the same, so I wanted my brother to join me, and my brother is a film school student, and he was studying at film school, India, Film and Television Institute of India, and he was working for the television channels, BBC, CNN, and
struggle. And for the international viewers, I think the Israeli propaganda is very, very strong, and most of the ideas that people have about Palestinians or our people generally is like they have the image of the Hollywood product, like see somebody like a terrorist, and that's it, and it's very flat. And even though there is some critique, and the popular community of Belen became more and more creative. They had like wonderful artistic ideas when they went to demonstrate in front of the soldiers, and this is one of the most brilliant ideas that they had. And this is this sense, just to stop the soldiers from going on the war on the land. This is the idea.
Seminar is about the other voice in Iran, Afghanistan, and Pakistan. Today we are going to have you're going to hear reports from the social movements in Iran, Afghanistan, and Pakistan, from people with different backgrounds, from different angles. You are going to hear what's going on in these countries. The voices, they're going to talk about the voices which you rarely hear about in the mainstream media. We have the Sahar Sabah. I always call her Sabah Sahar, but she is Sahar Sabah from Rava. You know Rava, the Revolutionary Association of Women of Afghanistan. We have Farouk Solehria. He's from Pakistan, and he's from the Labor Education Foundation. He's going to talk about the social movements of Pakistan. We have Piran Azad, which is from Revolutionary Workers of Iran, an organization, and is going to talk about the social movements, labor and student movements of Iran. My name is Sholeh Irani. I'm an editor of a feminist Persian magazine, and I'm going to talk about the women's movement in Iran as a social movement.
A short analysis of the region that we announced in our seminar, the Middle East and semi-continent. By the Middle East and semi-continent, we don't mean a geographical entity or area. It is mostly what it is in the political talk. It is a geopolitical, or let's say geostrategical area, which starts from northwestern Africa, the Morocco, till east in Afghanistan. And semi-continent is the Indian. Why we are talking about the region as an entity, that's important because of the whole discussion that we bring, is a few points. And that's when we talk about the coherent factor, which bring these countries from Morocco to Afghanistan and even Pakistan, part of the semi-continent together, that's because of the coherent factor. The coherent factor economically is the oil and petroleum. This region mainly the region of the Persian Gulf and Caspian Sea, includes 2/3 of the all well-known oil reserve of the world. 2/3 of the known reserve stay there, and it is on the south of Iran and north of Iran. So Iran is in the center of this, let's say, energy reserve and source of the century. And that's economically. And the oil has started to play a major role in politics of the region after the First World War. But after the Second World War, it is now turned to be the most important factor in the policy and politics of the whole region. It affects everything there. Tyrannic government is arising from the oil revenue because they have enough money. To one point that politically the world capitalism has planned for a new Middle East and semi-continent with different method, partitioning, new regime, everything, to make a stable and obedient government in the region. Two factors, stability and obedience. It's not only enough to have an obedient country, obedient state like Saudi Arabia. It should also be stable. That's the reason. And on top of that, they try to integrate the whole region under the neoliberal policies by privatization of all the economic sectors in the region. What happened? It's a deadlock. I finish my words that they have not been able to run this program. Now it is in deadlock. They are not satisfied in Iraq. They cannot impose what they need to run Iraq as they planned. That's the first factor. Afghanistan is out of the control. There is no government in Afghanistan. Hamid Karzai is not governing even the Kabul. And the most important phenomenon that happened these last few years is the situation in Pakistan. For the first time, after the foundation of the Pakistan, the army of the Pakistan, which is the most important leverage of the US imperialism in the whole semi-continent, South Asia, is out of the control. And so
I'm myself a generation of war. I was only 7 when Afghanistan was invaded. And since then, what I remember in my generation is just war, just destruction, just brutalities, just killings, and nothing left in Afghanistan, no infrastructure. 30 years is a long time. And during these 30 years, any kind of atrocities, any kind of brutalities, crimes, in the name of religion, in the name of tradition, in the name of culture, has happened in Afghanistan. United States, in its allies, Western allies, in the countries in the region, occupied Afghanistan with their military forces in the name of fighting terrorism, or the war on the so-called war on terror. But who were the victims? The last 7 years clearly showed that it was the people of Afghanistan, and first of all, the women of Afghanistan, who have been the prime victims of this whole tragedy since 1979. So let me just mention some facts that I'm sure you may know, but it's important to know that in what kind of situation we women are working. We have to face what kind of challenges, what kind of threats, what kind of accusations as being only women in having a voice in that country. In the last 7 years, Afghanistan, from any point of view, the situation there has not been better. Even in some places, unfortunately, people have to talk about the time of the Taliban, that it was better in terms of security. So if we talk about the security issue, Afghanistan is the worst place to be there, either as women, as children, or as people in general. Poverty is the most important issue right now in Afghanistan. Majority of Afghan people are living even less than $1 a day. More than 80% of people are unemployed in Afghanistan. Afghanistan, there is no political stability in the country. As before it was said here that President Karzai, a henpecked puppet of the United States, had no control beyond Kabul. He is just a puppet. He is just playing the role that was given by the United States. So, and what is important for organizations like RAWA, and from the very beginning, we clearly said that this war on terror cannot be succeeded. This war is just an excuse, just as is a justification to occupy Afghanistan, to use Afghanistan. Afghanistan itself doesn't have any oil, any not rich in natural resources, but unfortunately it has a very geographical good location for the United States. It's in order to encircle Russia, Iran, India, and also now the problems they have with Pakistan. So it was clear that they are not there for the Afghan people, not there for their liberation. It's just an excuse. And another reason why we were so sure that the United States is just using Afghanistan was from the first day their local allies, the people or the leaders or the parties who were their allies in Afghanistan was the Northern Alliance, and maybe you know who they were. They were the parties, the most brutal, criminal, anti-women, anti-democracy parties, fundamentalists who ruled Afghanistan from 92 to 96. And during 4 years, it was their time. It didn't happen during the Russian time or during the Taliban time. But just in 4 years, Afghanistan turned to a country with no infrastructures. Hundreds of women, young girls were raped, were kidnapped. The whole city of Kabul, even if today you go, you can clearly see that what they did to Afghanistan. So the same people with their political Islamic fundamentalism were brought back, were imposed on Afghan people. This Northern Alliance, from our point of view, for the Afghan people, are not different from in any way from the Taliban. They have the same political ideas, they have the same goals, and that's why in reinstalling the Northern Alliance on Afghanistan, or 50 women die because they cannot go to doctor. So we are working in this kind of country where is no stability, no political stability, and also security. But most importantly, democracy is just a joke. They are talking about the freedom of speech freedom and expressions, and there are TVs and all that. But if someone really truly talk about the reality of Afghanistan and condemn these warlords who have filled the parliament, our parliament is full of these drug dealers, these criminals, these killers of Afghan people. Our judiciary is like the Taliban type of judiciary. Our executive is just in the hands of these warlords, including the Taliban. They are inviting also the Taliban. So raising any voice against them, condemning them, means to give a big sacrifice, means to be threatened, not only you yourself, but your family, relatives, even friends, be put in prison. Tens of journalists who have dared talk about true stories, not really the way even Rawa has been condemning them. They are in jail right now, or they had to leave Afghanistan. So I was giving these facts because just to give you an idea that in what kind of situation we are working.
The process of Islamization. Our Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, Benazir's father, he was hanged to death in 1979 just because he was a nationalist, he was a socialist, and he was anti-imperialist. And Henry Kissinger, the very famous guy from USA, he came to Pakistan and he publicly told Bhutto, we will make a horrible example out of you. And what you had in Chile in 1973, or was it 74? Well, it's 3 or 4. Exactly. This is what we had in Pakistan 1977. The only difference was that Bhutto was not killed immediately. He was hanged 2 years afterwards. And then there was a military dictatorship that started a process of Islamization that really destroyed the fabric of the society. Trade unions were crushed. Student movement was crushed. And then, of course, the whole global situation changed as well, as my friend has talked about before, the collapse of Soviet Union and all that. So this ideological gap, of course, was filled by fundamentalist forces. But in Pakistan, except the last elections, elections before in 2002, which were really rigged by General Musharraf, fundamentalists have never been able to get more than 5% of votes. And if you compare it with Israel, for instance, the vote of fundamentalists are much less in Pakistan. And I promise any freak like George Bush wouldn't win in Pakistan. We had elections February this year, 18th of February. And in the rigged elections where the fundamentalists got over 60 seats, this time, since there was no rigging, the fundamentalists got only 4 mandates in the National Assembly. And their vote is perhaps 2%. And the region, the NWFP province where they had a government, provincial government, they were really wiped out. They were really wiped out. And the secular parties won there, Bhutto's party and the party I mentioned before, Awami National Party. And in last 4 or 5 years, once again, the Pakistan society, the vibrant Pakistan society has been asserting itself.
Stop the crime! Freedom too!
Barla. I am coming from Jharkhand, India. We have, you know, the ArcelorMittal is the biggest steel producer in world. He has already been established a steel factory in 27th country. Now he is start to acquire our ancestors' land in Jharkhand, Odisha and Chhattisgarh also. And we are opposing because we are the farmer, we are not want to steel factory, we are need grain. That's why we are opposing. We are the tribal peoples, we never alive without land, water and forest.
Fascismo!